it's still the Democratic Party. Keep your eyes on the prize. Hello, everybody, and welcome. I'm Mo Ray, and this is The Other Side of Talk. Glad to be with you. Before we get started here, I want to tell you about something that's happening elsewhere tomorrow. Tomorrow, I will be filling in for Ron Verb on 570 WKBN, my old channel. So check that out. And by the way, I'd really appreciate the moral support if you call up. If you don't normally listen, and I can understand why, maybe you'd like to try to give a little support to the other side tomorrow. I'll be on from 3 till 7 Eastern Standard Time right here in Youngstown on 570 WKBN. And furthermore, in January, I should be returning to a Sunday program as I used to have. Stay tuned on that. That looks like it's definitely going to go down. We just don't have an exact start date, but we'll be starting the new year off. I'm kind of glad I didn't, I haven't really had a regular show since the end of March of 2020. I'm looking forward to starting back in 2021. Hopefully a better year than this one. New year and a new president. So I look forward to that. There's a lot in the news to talk about, as always. I wanted to start out, and that's so small. I guess I'm going to have. Okay. I wanted to, I don't know if you've been following the news lately, but since Fox News declared Donald Trump the winner of the election, not on election night, but when Pennsylvania put Joe Biden over the line, some Fox viewers have been leaving the channel, going to more Trump-friendly, as they see it, networks like Newsmax and OAN. But personally, I think those are a little more than propaganda organizations, because they continue to back up the president and his totally untrue assertion that the election was stolen from him. It was not. And I hate to keep repeating it, but you know the facts. You know that 59 different courts turned this case away. That the evidence, and in fact, I've got a clip later from Georgia where a Georgia state representative talks about how she easily disputed the people that were claimed to be non-Georgia residents. All she had to do is a little homework, pick up the phone and find out, hey, guess what? This person, they're not dead. Hey, this person doesn't live in another state. They're here. So some of the, it gives you an idea why these courts laughed these cases out of court. But the sad thing is that the believers, that's what I'll call them politely, as opposed to cultists, but the Trump believers hang on his every word and take him at his word. And as I've said many times before, why you take a guy who's told over 20,000 lies in 4 years at his word is beyond me, but they do. Despite the fact that the Supreme Court has turned away 2 cases, despite the fact that Attorney General Barr says that there was no massive voter fraud. The president's own guy who was in charge of that from Homeland Security said that this was one of the safest elections in history. For his payback, he was fired. This president is living in his own reality. And I guess I'll start out talking about that. This is an article by a guy named Richard Fowler, and the text was it's an opinion piece that was featured on the Fox News website. And excuse me if I stumble a little. I'm cold reading and got what a nurse friend of mine calls medicine head. I've been taking some medication earlier. Oh, by the way, I also there was a location where they were giving free COVID-19 tests, and I took one today, and I'm telling you, it brought tears to my eyes. They stick that thing way up there, but don't let that dissuade you. I will get, that was a free test, but the trade-off on that is that I'll have to wait a couple of days before I get my results. There are some locations here in town where you can get your results same day, which I would prefer, because the thing about testing and having that lag time is that by the time I get my results, just in the course of going to the grocery store or who knows what, I could end up being exposed. So I would have a positive test from today that would be totally worthless by maybe Monday or Tuesday. And that's why I think you've had some of these situations like the White House. They'll always talk about how they test everybody, but they've had outbreak after outbreak of COVID-19. In fact, currently, Secretary of State Pompeo is quarantining himself. Here we go again, folks. They still refuse to wear masks at the Trump White House. I think there'll be a different situation at the Biden White House. But anyway, the words of Richard Fowler from the Fox News website. The former reality TV performer is now, I've already messed up. Okay. The former reality TV performer who is now president of the United States needs to face reality. His show has been canceled by the American people after 4 chaotic seasons. Every election has one winner and one or more losers. The Electoral College made it official Monday. Former Vice President Joe Biden is the winner of the November 3rd presidential election, and President Trump is the loser. Biden is now indisputably president-elect and will become president at noon on January 20th. He received 306 electoral votes, far more than the 270 needed to become our next, that looked like a C to me, our next president. Trump received only 232 electoral votes. On top of that, Biden won the popular vote in a landslide, capturing almost 81.3 million votes, more than any presidential candidate in U.S. history, to the 74.2 million for Trump. And no, Biden's victory was not the result of fraud, as Trump falsely claims. Christopher Krebs, the Republican appointed by Trump to head the federal agency overseeing election security, issued a statement November 12th with state and local election officials calling the election, quote, the most secure in American history, end quote. Trump fired Krebs November 17th for telling the truth. Even Attorney General Bill Barr said December 1st that the Justice Department hasn't found voting fraud, quote, on a scale that could have affected a different outcome in the election, end quote. Trump tweeted Monday night that Barr will leave his post as Attorney General December 23rd. Merry Christmas, my editorial comment. He goes on further, though. Let's go ahead to this. Can we go? Okay, I'll do it here. Yes. Even Attorney General, I need to scroll up. Okay, pardon moi. All right, there we go. Oh, I went way past. But there we go. And Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, Republican Kentucky, acknowledged the obvious Tuesday when he said on the Senate floor, quote, the Electoral College has spoken. So today, I want to congratulate President-elect Joe Biden. And end quote. Look, we all know no one likes to lose, but no matter how upset Trump is, no matter how much nonsense he tweets, no matter how many people he fires, and no matter how many frivolous lawsuits he files, he is headed out the door. Hold on, we're going to scroll. Wow, I went way past. Well, you get the idea, but hold on. Where are we now? Okay. Need to come down a little bit? There we go. And now, don't you love live radio? It's not radio today. This is live streaming. And there we go. I'm going to end after this. It just says, where did I end there? Yes. Yes, he's headed out the door. His defeat will bring a welcome end to a disastrous presidency that waged war on the Constitution, our right to vote, freedom of the press, many other American rights, and the truth itself. The results of the Electoral College vote shouldn't be a surprise to anyone. Joe Biden represents the best of America, has advanced moderate and effective policies, and has decades of government experience. He is a uniter, not a divider like Trump. He bases his decisions on facts and will take the job of being president seriously. Those are the words of Richard Fowler, and that is from the Fox News site, and excuse my many mistakes there, but you get the point. I felt that he said it much better than I can. Yes, this reality show is coming to an end, whether the president wants to admit it or not. And I know many of us think not a second too soon. By the way, the number here is 330-595-1600. That's 330-595-1600. Now I can finally look at some of the comments too. And let's see. Tim says greetings. And he also says, glad to have you back on WKBN Friday and next year on Sundays. Debbie says, how nice to have you on 570 Friday. And where'd she go? Oh, and I think she means, and New Year on Sunday. So happy, Mo. Thank you very much, Debbie. Let's see. Keith Sturgeon says, and I read his whole name, I usually don't do that. Rapid testing is faulty testing. 1 day turnaround testing is best. Okay. Well, and he says, you libs are so crazy, the country's screwed. Well, that's your opinion, and you're welcome to it. Can't stand this guy. I can't stand Donald Trump, but I guess that makes us even. And Randy's watching. And Matt says Rivers continued to say yesterday that Dominion machines were manipulated. Does he actually believe this, or is he just playing to his audience? Either way, it's unethical and dangerous to peddle on the airwaves. I can't speak for Dan. I can only say that I have had the clips from the guy who runs Dominion Electoral Services, I believe it's called. He explained how the machines worked. He explained that there's a paper trail. He explained they cannot be manipulated, but these conspiracy kooks can continue to say what they want to say. If certain radio personalities want to deal in conspiracies, that's up to them. But I'll be in for Ron Verb tomorrow, and I'll be playing clips out of the mouths of some of these people stating their cases. You can believe what you want to believe. We live in an age of alternative facts. That may be the statement for the ages from Kellyanne Conway. It doesn't matter the reality of the situation. As I said, do I need to go through it again? What are the odds? If it were so glaringly obvious that this was a fixed election, I would think that some of those judges, some of those federal judges, some are Republican, many are Republicans, people who were chosen by all the way back to George H.W. Bush, George W. Bush, people like that. Some of these judges were even picked by Trump himself. Certainly that was the case with the Supreme Court, which has a 6-3 conservative majority, including 3 justices picked by Donald Trump himself. And they said, you got nothing, pal. Yet he continues to go on and on and on. But luckily, the clock is running out on this nonsense. The Electoral College vote should have been the end of it. There's a ceremonial vote in Congress on January 6th, and that should put this baby to bed. Mitch McConnell also really ask his people not to raise a stink about this. It doesn't matter. It would take a majority in either the House or the Senate, and the deciding factor comes in the House, which is, of course, dominated by Democrats. So there's no doubt that Joe Biden will be confirmed, but there are some people who are going to raise some trouble, including a guy named Ron Johnson. He's a senator who's been out there saying a bunch of things that are questionable. And the only other person that might say something on January 6th is a nutball who was chosen by the people of Georgia. She is is she from Georgia or another state? I'll get back to you on that. But this is a QAnon person, so that's all I need to know. The QAnon, and by the way, some of these people, I'm watching the Republican Party destroy itself. You saw the clip if you watched Tuesday's program where these people were saying that they don't think the Republicans fought hard enough to defend the president and all this nonsense, and they were saying destroy the GOP, which, by the way, I'm all for. Go for it. But anyway, let's get down to the clips. Speaking of which, I was, there we go. So you got that ready to go? Okay, Mario's doing his thing. Should be good. Okay. Well, then this I found kind of disingenuous on the part of Karl Rove. Now, he's using a comparison here between this, and I might even stop it halfway through to make my point. In fact, I'll just let this go. But Biden, once he finally won the Electoral College, he had been kind of holding back on attacking the president, but he finally said what he wanted to say, and Fox News took him to task for his comments.
Incoming President Biden called for unity after the Electoral College vote to make the election results official, but he didn't extend an olive branch to his own biggest political rival, instead taking several shots at President Trump over his actions since the voting ended.
Respecting the will of the people is at the heart of our democracy. Even when we find those results hard to accept, it is my sincere hope we never again see anyone subjected to the kind of threats and abuse we saw in this election. It's simply unconscionable.
Joining us now, Karl Rove, former White House Deputy Chief of Staff and a Fox News contributor. Karl, good morning to you, sir. Biden wants the country to unite, but he didn't exactly go out of his way to win over the 74 million people who voted for his opponent.
Not at all. Tone was a big mistake. Referred to the president as extreme, said he refused to respect the will of the people, the rule of law, and honor the Constitution. He called the president's efforts in court an unprecedented assault on our democracy, and then turned around and said it's time to unite, turn the page, to heal. Bad tone, bad mistake. I just, there's a pugnaciousness to Joe Biden that when it comes out, it ain't very attractive.
Okay, I'm going to let this continue, but here's the point I'm trying to make. This president, he's bashing Biden for actually attacking Trump for being extreme. This is the first president in my lifetime, and maybe in the history of this country, who has put on a pity party for himself 6 weeks after the election. That fired off by itself.
You don't want to hit that X.
I'm trying. Okay, but maybe we won't be going back to that. But the bottom line is this. For Karl Rove to act like, what a terrible tone from Joe Biden. Joe Biden has been treated like a dog for the last 6 weeks. It was very obvious that he was the winner, and yet this president continued to engage in his nonsense, and he continues to this day. So yes, Mr. Rove, I would consider that extreme. I think Joe Biden is going to do his best to reach out to those 73 million who voted for the president, but some of them will never come around, the same way some Democrats never came around to Donald Trump. I was always a member of the resistance. I very seldom use the word president and Trump in the same sentence. I usually just call him the president. Whoopi Goldberg calls him you-know-who. So I guess we're going to continue to play our silly games. But to try to pretend that Joe Biden is such a nasty person to attack Donald Trump for no good reason. Donald Trump has done everything in his power to delegitimize the election of Joe Biden. He has done everything in his power to undermine trust in our election system. So he deserves a good browbeating. He deserves a lot more than that. So it's not the same thing, Karl. It's not the same thing. You can say that, it's bad tone and all that. What about the tone of this president acting like a petulant child for the last 6 weeks? How mature is that? And by the way, one of the main reasons this president lost, speaking about reaching out to the other side, is that Donald Trump treated his presidency like it was a Trump rally. He didn't care about the people who didn't vote for him. He didn't care about people who had opposing viewpoints. Instead, he ridiculed them from the stage in front of a crowd of red hats again and again and again. So you can best believe that when the American people had a chance to vote, those of us who were not a member of Cult 45 voted against Donald J. Trump. No explanation needed. So that's what happened there. Once again, the number is 595-1600. Let's get back to some comments. Tom says, glad you're back, Mo. Tim says, Jim Traficant has to be looking down or up on us thinking, And you thought I was bizarre. You're right. No. And I actually, in the early days, somebody described Donald Trump as Jim Trafficant with more money and a better wardrobe. I don't think Jim Trafficant would have gone as far as this, even though Jim Trafficant actually was kicked out of Congress in disgrace. I don't think Jim Trafficant would have, if Jim Trafficant lost, he would have accepted that loss. He wouldn't have gone on and on with these baseless allegations for weeks and weeks and weeks. This is a dark time in American history, and I do want to turn the page. But of course, there are plenty of people, because this country is so polarized right now, it's not going to be smooth sailing for Joe Biden. I'd seen some polling that indicated that in Georgia, the Democrats were prevailing, but there's other polls that say that the Republicans are ahead only by a little bit. That's Loeffler and Perdue. They're only ahead by a little bit. So it'll all matter. Let's remember, Georgia, there's at least almost 30% black population in Georgia. And the overwhelming majority of those black folks are going to vote for the Democrats. Just a thing we do. We're not a monolith. There are black Republicans, but there's something in the Republican message that doesn't appeal to some black people. Maybe the fact that the Republican message seems to appeal to people like the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys, who engage in violent behavior. Or don't forget guys like David Duke or Richard, oh my gosh, I thought I'd remember his name forever. But this guy, during the situation in Charlottesville, Richard Spencer, that's his name, Trump supporter all the way. He even said, "Heil Trump." So if you're taking, I'm not saying Republicans are Nazis, but I'm saying there's something in their message that seems to appeal to that type. And it makes you wonder. And but it shouldn't make you wonder why Donald Trump does not appeal to a lot of black people when he attacks cities. Yes, cities that may well be infested with crime. But if you're a black resident of that crime, you're not just attacking that city, you're attacking me. That's the way they look at that. Not to mention, you don't gain many points with the black community by spending most of your presidency attacking the first black president. And then they turn around and try to call Joe Biden a racist. Yeah, he's a racist. That's why Obama kept him around for 2 terms. Oh yeah, he's a racist. That's why he picked a woman of color as his VP. Very logical. Makes sense to me. That's what I mean. The world is upside down right now, and it's sickening. But let's see. And Tim sent some polls that, hey, can you click on that there? Let's see. All right, and maybe we can look. All right, so there they are. No, that's what he wants us to see up top there, the Purdue polls. Purdue is, so there we go. Yeah, as I said, this is from Real Clear Politics, and that I'm trying to see the source. That's an Emerson poll and a Rasmussen poll. And by the way, Rasmussen does tend to, that's president's job approval. It does, and wow, Trump job approval on Rasmussen is 51%. That's unique, but not to be surprised. In the whole 4 years Donald Trump was in office, he was only above 50%. 3 times. Each time it was on a Rasmussen poll, because they do tend to skew to the right. But when they look at the Purdue Ossoff race, for example, they've got Purdue, the Republican, with 51% and Ossoff with 48%. Loeffler has 51%. She's the Republican, and Warnock has 48%. So 3 point, that's within the margin of error, as they like to say in the big time media. So this could go either way. And we shall see. If those 2 seats flip, though, then you will have a Mitch McConnell will become irrelevant, and the speaker will be, pardon me, not the speaker, the Senate Majority Leader will be Chuck Schumer. Let me go to the next clip. I've kind of messed myself up here. Yeah, this is, when I start playing this, not yet. I got a guy that wants to walk through, and I'll let him walk through as soon as I start this clip. This is a congresswoman from Georgia, and she's explaining how she picked apart the so-called discrepancies with the election.
Mr. Brainerd, I did have a chance to read through your affidavit and look at the exhibits that you attached to the affidavit. And you allege that there are individuals who cast invalid ballots, and you believe the claim you're making is within a reasonable degree of scientific certainty. So I did take a look at the exhibits you attached, and I do want to share with you some of the things that I found that appear to be incorrect to me. And I'll address these in orders of the exhibit attached, and I'll just, in the interest of time, highlight the most notable things that I found. The first exhibit attached, Exhibit 2, is a list of folks who were registered to vote in Georgia and have subsequently registered to vote in another state. Right off the bat in your affidavit, you testify that you cleaned up the list for duplicate entries, yet on the very first page of the exhibit, there are 3 duplicate voters. So I am concerned about the duplicate entries that may not have been removed from the exhibits. On that same page, what I did was I just took the first 10 names that were listed that are alleged to no longer be a resident in the state of Georgia. Of those 10 names, I found 8 property tax records that shows the voter still lives at this current address listed under which they're registered in the state of Georgia. They claim homestead exemption on this home as their primary residence, and they pay property taxes on their homes here in the state of Georgia. These are 2020 records that I will be submitting to the committee for review. Of these 10 voters that I researched, I was able to reach one voter on the phone. The voter verified that both he and his wife still live at this address in the state of Georgia, and he has only voted in the state of Georgia. He has a lengthy voting history that I was able to pull as well. From this very same list of individuals, one individual is alleged to be registered in both Georgia and Arizona. I was able to confirm her registration in Georgia and match her voter registration to a property tax record to confirm that she still holds residency in the state of Georgia as her primary residence. I cross-referenced her with Arizona's database and in fact did find a voter with the exact same name, and they are exactly the same age. However, the voter in Georgia was born January 17th and the voter in Arizona was born on April 17th. The voter also has a very common name, and I subsequently just typed in her full name, first, middle, and last name. In the state of Georgia, 117 people share this name, according to White Pages, and in the state of Arizona, 54 people share this name.
You get the idea. See, the thing is, when Rudy stands before the cameras and waves his mountains of papers and says, I've got all these affidavits, if the affidavits can easily be dispelled with a little detective work, this is why the judges are throwing these out. This is why 58 cases have gone nowhere, because they're garbage. Just because you've got a feeling. And then the president the other day, he said, they're not looking at my case because of a technicality called standing. It's not a technicality, Mr. President. They're not going to look at a case that they feel they feel is illegitimate. The big one, the one where the state of Texas tried to sue other states for the way they enforce their voting rules. That's never been done before. And a lot of people in the House of Representatives really have something to answer for, including a relatively local representative, Bill Johnson, who signed on to this nonsense. There was no way that was going to go anywhere. And not to mention the fact that 17 or 18 attorneys general, the head law enforcement officer of each state, signed on to this. They know how the Constitution works. They know how the judicial system works. Yet they couldn't make a case. Let's see. And by the way, turnout in Georgia is Tim says turnout in Georgia, just like the presidential election, will be critical. Well, Tim, I can tell you it's already the people who have registered to the early voting is already way ahead of the presidential voting, which was astronomical. So people are very excited about this. And as I said, I was looking at some other poll numbers, and I'll just take this off my phone. And this is from Nat Silver, 538. And as you point out, the other ones were from Emerson and Rasmussen. This is from the Trafalgar group. Warnock is 47, and Loeffler is 50. From that same group, you've got a tie. You've got Ossoff and Purdue tied on that one. That was on December 12th. On December 11th, this is from the Fabrizio Ward Hart Associates. They've got Warnock at 47 and Loeffler at 48. So, this is very close. This could go either way. And by the way, that same group also has Ossoff ahead of Purdue, the Republican. You've got another one from Data for Progress on December 7th, 50% for Warnock and 47% for Loeffler, the Republican. And they've also, but in that same one, you've got Purdue with 50% and Ossoff with 48%. So this is going to be a nail biter in Georgia. The ideal situation for Democrats would be for both Democrats to prevail. But if either Democrat prevails, it is a positive. But it takes both Democrats to win in Georgia to make Mitch McConnell irrelevant. And the sooner, the better for that. But let's move on to the next thing. The whole Trump mentality was parodied on Saturday Night Live the other night. Imagine and they parodied Newsmax, which I don't know if you've watched Newsmax or OAN, most people don't, but if you, this is where some Fox viewers are going, because Fox has an actual news division that actually tells the truth sometimes. And as I've stated many times, there are plenty of people out there that don't want the truth. They want the Trump. But here you'll see if the Trump mentality was applied to the sports world. And this was from this past weekend's SNL, and it's called Sportsmax. All right, there we are. And yeah, that's if you applied the logic that you're hearing from some of the Trump people to this situation, that all these court cases are irrelevant, that all the vote counts are irrelevant, that, hey, Trump's going to pull it out somehow. That's why you still ride by a few houses that are still decorated in Trump regalia, because they really believe in their heart of hearts that this whole thing was a big mistake, and somehow, some way, even though, all the votes have been certified by all 50 states, even though the Electoral College chose Joe Biden the other day, and they will, the Senate will vote, the whole Congress will vote on January 6th. This is all going to work out, folks. It's all right. Joe Biden didn't win. Yeah, only if you're in the Twilight Zone is that true. But to another point, this is from Georgia.gov. So this is from the official site. And it says Georgia continues to set records for voter turnout and election participation, seeing the largest increase in average turnout of any other state in 2018 midterms, and record primary turnout with over 1.1 million absentee by mail voters and 1.2 in-person voters. That's true. But then I'm looking at another story from New York Times, and it says in the first day of voting in the runoffs, it eclipsed the one for general elections. So this is what I was saying. People are definitely into this, and they are lined up big time. So we'll see what happens. And I just want to start a little bit of this New York Times story. It says, when the polls opened the first day of early voting in Georgia, weeks before the November 3rd election, turnout was so high that it eclipsed a record set 4 years earlier by 42%. It was a staggering level of participation, particularly during a pandemic. State officials boasted, sending a clear signal of the passion surrounding the election. On Monday, as in-person early voting began for the 2 Senate runoff races, a new record was set, as turnout exceeded by tens of thousands the number of votes cast at the start of the general election. Already, election officials said Wednesday, roughly 800,000 people have voted through in-person polls and absentee ballots. So there you have it. There's a lot of excitement about this, and I think there is no mistake that these people know what's on the line here. They're not only electing 2 senators, they may well be wresting the control of the Senate from the Republicans. And that would give the Democrats a conservative nightmare, a Democratic president, and Democrat control of both chambers of Congress. Oh, joy. It's possible. We'll know soon enough. But somebody else, this is an interesting call from the Rush Limbaugh show. And this caller is from Georgia, and she's telling Rush that she thinks the whole thing is fixed. This is what, and this I said the other day, this would be the ultimate karma if Trump's lies end up backfiring. Since you're telling everybody, Mr. President, that the whole thing is rigged, then why bother voting, right? So I hope this karma comes to pass. But listen to this from yesterday's Rush Limbaugh program.
Here's Kim in Kennesaw, Georgia. Glad you waited. Hi.
Hi, Rush. Thank you so much for having me. I'm a Georgia voter here. I was proud to attend Trump's rally on November the 1st, waiting in line for 11 hours. It was worth every minute. My question is, without Trump, why would I bother to give these Republican Senate seats another vote? I voted for Loeffler and Perdue when I voted for President Trump, and due to the overwhelming fraud in our Georgia election system, my vote did not count. It's the same people running the runoff election. Why would I think it would matter then?
Well, let me ask you, does it matter to you that the Senate be able to stop the Biden-Obama agenda? Or are you of the opinion you don't care anymore?
No, I do care. But my thing is, too, even if we have 52-48, we can't trust all our Republican senators. Kamala would be the tiebreaker for a 50-50 vote then if Romney and Collins, for instance, voted with a Democrat.
I understand that, but if you lose these two seats, then it's academic. There's no way, you have no chance of stopping the Biden-Obama agenda. At least with these two, if they win, there is numerically a chance to, they require that the Republicans stay unified and so forth. Look, as far as I'm concerned, there's no wrong or right answer here, so don't misinterpret my tone. I'm not trying to be critical in the way I ask the questions of you. To me, that's what this is about. If you want to be able to stop the Democrat agenda, by that, you want to stop the Green New Deal? Do you want to stop the way they're planning on dealing with the coronavirus? Do you want to stop the virtual takeover of this country by radical leftists? The only chance you've got is those two Senate seats. I know they're not a guarantee because you said they could cave anytime they wanted, depend on the pressures that are mounted against them, but at least there is the possibility of stopping it if they are elected. And has Trump changed his mind? Has Trump said that he doesn't care whether they win or not since that rally?
Not that I know of. I just feel it just seems more hopeless each day. I have never not voted in any election since 1988, not even small municipal elections. But I'm sure I'm not the only one, especially here in Georgia, that feels like, the Republicans are basically using us the way the Democrats use an underclass to keep them power, and they're not doing anything to help us. They're selling out left and right. Our governor ran on a platform that he was like Trump. He has not. None of his administration is. I don't feel that the Republicans are fighting for us. Vernon Jones, a Democrat, goes to the Capitol on the weekend and fights for us. But Perdue and Loeffler.
We'll leave it there. You get the idea. So, but that's an interesting phenomenon, isn't it? That you've got this woman who's so convinced that she's not so convinced that it's rigged, but she seems to think that the Republicans, see, this is what happens when you get into a cult of personality situation. Did you hear what she said there at the end? That the Republicans aren't acting like Trump. So basically, she just wants Donald Trump and a bunch of Donald Trump clones. And as far as the governor of Georgia, Donald Trump has been bad-mouthing that guy big time. But this is, Trump used to recite a thing at his rallies called the snake, where he's talking about how I believe it was, I can't remember if it was a turtle but somebody gave this, some animal gave the woman carried the snake across the river. And once she got the snake across the river, the snake bit her. Well, and basically the moral of the story is that I'm a snake. It's my nature. I think some of these Republicans that have cozied up and in some cases sold their soul for Donald Trump are finding out that he'll turn on them in a New York minute. In the case of Bill Barr, he'll throw you under the bus in a New York minute. In the case of Mr. Krebs from Homeland Security, who had the nerve to say that it was a safe election, you're fired. Donald Trump wants everybody to walk lockstep with him. That is by definition, that is an autocrat. That I voted, these people who are talking about socialism and all that. Well, I voted against fascism. I voted against an autocrat who's trying to recreate this country in his own image, who's trying to tell you who's a good American and who's not a good American. I have on more than one occasion compared this to McCarthyism. And those of you of a certain age may not be aware of what that was, but where you had a senator who was calling people communists who weren't communists. He was destroying people's lives. He was trying to decide who was the good American, who was the bad American. I say we're all Americans, and we don't all agree with Donald Trump. And that's what makes America, America. And that's why the president should not be surprised that all the people that he slighted and insulted and ignored for 4 years, when they had an opportunity, they voted his ass out. No surprise there, Mr. President. And no fraud either. Let's go to, something else that's been in the news. Tucker Carlson seemed to have an issue. I don't know why that happened with that clip. Let me see if I can pull this up properly. Yes, now we're going to be all right. Tucker Carlson's been calling out Dr. Jill Biden, and she's not a medical doctor, but she does have the credentials, PhD, that kind of thing, where you can be called a doctor. It's not pretentious. It's not as though she didn't earn it. But and there was an opinion piece in the Wall Street Journal that was very condescending to her. But speaking of condescension, here's the master, Tucker Carlson, and here's his opinion of the whole thing.
Oh, doctor, kind of amusing. But let's get serious for a minute. Imagine your nightmare health emergency. You're on vacation with your family when suddenly you double over with shooting chest pains and lose consciousness. You wake up strapped into the back of an ambulance, racing to the emergency room. Paramedics hover over you, trying to keep you calm. You've had a massive coronary, they shout over the sirens, but we're going to take good care of you. You're about to see one of the best doctors in the country. In fact, Whoopi Goldberg just said this person should be the next Surgeon General. So you slump back onto the stretcher, deeply relieved. Maybe you're going to make it after all. Moments later, they wheel you into the hospital, and there she is, the famous doctor they just told you about. But something's wrong. She doesn't have a stethoscope. There's not a chart or an EKG machine in sight. Instead, she's turning on what appears to be an overhead projector. Jill, a nurse yells, "There's a patient here. What do we do?" "That's Dr. Biden to you," the woman replies icily, and then launches into a slideshow on equity and diversity in Delaware's community college system. Very soon, you begin to lose consciousness again. For the first time in your life, you have no fear of death. In fact, you welcome its sweet release. You don't just walk toward the light, you run. So contrary to what you may have read, Dr. Jill Biden is not a healer. She's not allowed to write prescriptions. She wouldn't know what to do with your appendix. Dr. Jill has an education degree from some school in Delaware, and you're supposed to find that highly impressive. She could be a Surgeon General. Now, many have laughed at the apparent absurdity of this, but we took it seriously because that's our job. We actually read her dissertation this week, the very document that made her, quote, a doctor. And what did we discover when we did that? We're going to give it to you in a diagnosis. Dr. Jill needs reading glasses. Either that or she's borderline illiterate. There are typos everywhere, including in the first graph of the introduction. Dr. Jill can't write, and she can't really think clearly either. Parts of the dissertation seem to be written in a foreign language using English words. They're essentially pure nonsense, like pig Latin or dogs barking. The whole thing is just incredibly embarrassing.
I think what's embarrassing is him saying that. And by the way, this same network has a guy named Sebastian Gorka on, who used to be a member of the Trump administration, and he likes to refer to himself as Dr. Sebastian Gorka. They don't seem to have a problem with that. So that's a little thing that's out there. But we've got a call, and let's talk to Julie. And let's talk to Julie and see what she has on her mind. Hello, Julie.
Hi, Mo.
Yes.
I thought it was interesting. I was listening to KBN and Dimitri was on there. In his first hour, he did a little poll from the callers about who was worse, liberals or rhinos. And overwhelmingly, the callers called in and said, it's the rhinos. I really think the Republican Party is about dead. And if it's going to come back to anything the way it used to be, it's going to be a tough road to hope.
Yeah, I don't anticipate that, Julie. In fact, I think that there's even talk. I don't know how serious they are about the QAnon people and the really whack jobs in the Republican Party starting their own party and calling it the Patriot Party. So we'll see what happens there. Whether we can go back, when they look at the reasonable Republicans like a Mitt Romney or somebody like that, they're just too milquetoast. They want that red meat guy. They want more Trump. They want more let's go own the libs. They want that mentality. They when they hear somebody talk about working with the Democrats, they look at that person as some type of traitor. So I don't see how you get anything done with that mentality. I'm gonna let you finish. There's something I'm trying to squeeze in here real quick though. You got one more thing, or
Okay. Only thing I wanted to say was, am I going to be able to call you at KBN, or do I have to get a burner phone?
No, you're allowed to call. Don't worry. I'll don't worry. We'll take care of that. That day, it's my show and I'm going to run it my way that day. Okay.
Good. That's a good thing. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Real quick here, and I'm going to probably go a little over in apologies, but I really think this is worth seeing because let's get in the holiday spirit and go out on up. We're going to Randy Rainbow, and haven't played him in a while, but he's got a tribute in the holiday spirit, a tribute to Rudy Giuliani, the president's personal lawyer, and why not go out on a high note or a low note, depending on your perspective. So take it away, Randy Rainbow.
There are so many notable Rudolphs that we know. Maya, that reindeer, and poor Valentino. What do you recall? The most batshit Rudy of all.
Did you all watch My Cousin Vinny?
Rudolph the leaky lawyer had a very slimy face, and to the law profession he was, well, a big disgrace. Lots of confused New Yorkers found that they were incorrect. They thought their former mayor had a little self-respect. Then one night 2 years ago, Donald called to say, Rudy, with your Rogaine roots, help me hide my prostitutes. And how he sweat and slobbered as he melted on TV. Rudolph the leaky lawyer, you'll go down in infamy. Let's take it nice and easy. Get it?
Rudy. He says to her, how many fingers do I got up? Rudy. I know crimes. I can smell them.
Rudy, he's batshit. Yeah, he is. Rudolph the leaky lawyer had a pair of crazy eyes. And while he spread corona, he was also spreading lies. Oh, how the whole world mocked him, though he kept his dress shirts tucked. He couldn't tell poor Donald, pack it up, cause babe, you're failing to overturn this election. Still each day 4 months on end, Donald texted, hey, Rudy, with your fart so free, let's go screw democracy. How that dripping doormat bent to Donald's every whim. Rudolph the leaky lawyer